So right at the start of Acts chapter 13, we see almost a picture-perfect example of what a church should look like when following the mandate that Jesus gave in Acts 1, verse 8. When looking at the leaders of the church in Antioch, here's how they are listed. Now in the church of Antioch, there were prophets and teachers, Barnabas, Simeon, who was called Niger, Lucius of Cyrene, Manaen, a member of the court of the Herod the ruler, and Saul. So what we see is a multi-ethnic Gentile community led by Barnabas, a Hellenistic Jew, Simon, a black man, Lucius of Cyrene, another black man, Manaen, who was well off, he would have had a high status, and then Saul, a Pharisaical Jew. So it's this conglomerate of people that are leading a church that would become not just a standalone church that is mentioned here, but one that would be the sending church for Paul on all of his missionary journeys. This is where he would be refreshed. This is where he would be refueled in the multicultural, multi-ethnic community of Antioch. So the entire narrative of Paul's missionary journeys to South Asia he's sent from Antioch, and then the entire narrative of his journeys to South Asia and everywhere else is a fulfillment of his calling to take the gospel to the Gentiles, to take the gospel to people of many ethnicities, of many cultures, those outside of the ethnic Jewish community, but those who will become a part of the covenantal family. So echoing the foundational mandate of Jesus in Acts 1 verse 8 and trusting in the precedent set by conversions such as that of the centurion, the Gentile who was a centurion, and the Ethiopian eunuch, Paul takes the gospel to places full of many cultures and ethnicities. And this doesn't always sit well with the people there. He got a lot of backlash because of that. But we see his perseverance to build a multi-ethnic faith and answer the call of Jesus to live a life that is multicultural. So in the Jerusalem Council in chapter 15, we see as the people of God come together that to answer the question of can Gentiles be brought into the community, the family of God, without circumcision? Do Gentiles have to be circumcised in order to properly be followers of Christ? And the answer is no. For those that are ethnic Jews, they can still be circumcised and it's not a sin, but the physical mark of ethnic Judaism would not be a requirement for Christianity. And when were people first called Christians in the multi-ethnic community that we talked about in Acts chapter 13 of the church of Antioch? So we see all of these threads start to tie together that show us why the theme of ethnicity is so critical to Acts and to the mission of God. The mission of God is not truly reflective of God's desire and what his mission actually is if it's not multi-ethnic, if it's not multicultural. You can't call a homogeneous mission the mission of God because the mission of God is fundamentally multi-ethnic. So in Acts chapter 16, we see a disciple who would embody this multi-ethnic identity, and that's Timothy. As Timothy is called to join Paul on his missionary journey, we find out that Timothy's mother is Jewish and his father is Greek. He is this biracial mixed child that would take the gospel further. So Dr. Jennings says in his commentary that Timothy constitutes the in-between. His life presents the shifting plates of identity on which we all stand. And my wife is mixed. She is black and Turkish. And I know that a lot of times with mixed identity, you can almost, and she's shared this, that you can almost feel like you're not a part of either. You're not white, but you're also not black enough. So it is possible, what we see in the life of Timothy is it is possible for him to love the Gentiles of his father, this is from Dr. Jennings, and the Jews of his mother, and with both, through both, and in both, perform his commitment to Jesus. This is the inner logic of a Christian, to perform multiple loves in loving Jesus. Timothy loved his ethnic identities, and that helped him love Jesus more. So Paul's threat to the Jews as he goes throughout his missionary journeys, and when he's arrested, when he's brought before the leaders of the day, and when he has to testify, his threat to the Jews was that the resurrection of Jesus that he's testifying about would bring Gentiles into the community of God and directly threaten the status and the community of the Jews that they had built up so nice and tight and homogeneous. So Paul threatens that, and the Jews do not like that. So you go through this whole journey of pushback against Paul, arrest of Paul, and really just his perseverance to minister and to take the gospel to the Gentiles. In his final teaching in Rome, at the very end of the book of Acts, in Acts 28, it almost calls back to all of the things we've mentioned before, whether it's Jesus' mandate in chapter 1, the conversions of the eunuch and the centurion, the church of Antioch, and then answers the question of what is the mission of God and how is that shown in Acts. And Paul continues to proclaim a gospel that is inclusive of the Gentiles, showing us the beauty of a multi-ethnic, multicultural community, and that the mission of God is just that.